What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the DFS OGs podcast right here on RotoGrinders, presented by our friends over at FanDuel. Make sure you are heading over to FanDuel and checking out all the offerings, DFS, Sportsbook, Casino, and of course, the FanDuel OGs tournament. You can find all the information there at FanDuel.com/OG. We'll talk more about that throughout the show, but let me get to my boys here, my fellow OGs, Head Chopper and Notorious. Chop, let's start with you. Week 14 behind us, week 15. Looking like COVID going to wreak some havoc here, just taking over in the NFL landscape. So we'll try to give our initial look, as we always do, try to avoid some landmines here. But how we doing, my man?
Yeah, doing good. And lots of news out there already, man. It's really, this is kind of what we're hoping wouldn't happen this year, but it's here. So we just got to kind of navigate through it and push through these couple weeks right here. So we've got some fun stuff on tap this week. We're not gonna cover it all, but we get to wake up to a little a Saturday football on Saturday in the NFL, so that's always good, and all the other stuff that's going on. So should be fun. We just got to hope there's no cancellations.
Yes, for sure. There's some teams looking dicey, especially on that Saturday slate. We are just going to stick to the main slate on Sunday. Still 11 games for us to cover. We'll have you covered here on RotoGrinders, top to bottom, for Thursday Night Football, and of course those two games on Saturday. We'll stay in our lane here with the Sunday main slate. Let's get over to Notorious. How was Week 14? How we doing, my man?
Yeah, we don't need to waste any time talking about Week 14. That's for sure. But somebody sent me the list of guys with COVID from the Browns, and it's like 30 different guys. So it'll be interesting to see how many teams, even have decent rosters this week. And kind of the same thing in the NBA too. Just seems like injuries and COVID everywhere. So going to have to be one of those slates where we can't really set a lineup now. You're just going to have to wait and, have different backup plans in place, because a lot can change between now and Sunday morning.
Chop, we need that season-long update with all these COVID things going on. Is the team surviving? Are we looking good here? Are we still alive in the playoffs? Let's knock this out. How's that season-long team looking here heading into Week 15?
Well, after a 3-game losing streak, I still secured my playoff spot, so I'm good there. And then we crank it up this week: 15, 16, and 17. It's we're doing it different this year. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but I'm excited because it's just don't finish in last place and you advance, and then don't finish in last place and you advance, and then Week 17 will be a two-team Super Bowl. So I still got some good players, man. So I know I can advance to the Super Bowl and get there, and then get a little lucky. But it's crazy, man. Now I got to figure out who to start, because I got some good players. I got some good matchups this week. Maybe you guys will help me out.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. If we come to a spot in the show, Chop, we're like, these are some of my season long guys. Well, let's bring it to light so we can get you all lined up there. Derek, I know you do a season long with your buddies, correct? Any update on your season long teams before we get into things here?
Well, I forgot to change my team like the first 4 weeks of the season, so started out 0-4, I think, and then I was like, okay, I can do enough to make it into the playoffs. So tried for like 6 weeks and eventually gave up again. So I think for the first time ever, I'm going to miss the playoffs.
Oh, it happens. I mean, the busy life of a DFS player. Sometimes you forget things. Hell, sometimes you forget to enter your own contest on FanDuel, which is what happened to yours truly this week. But still want to highlight it, and that's part of the reason we keep your top 10 scores, because sometimes you just get too busy. But DFS OGs contest, again, FanDuel.com/OG, $7 buy-in, single entry tournament, season-long payout. So we're getting close. Your top 10 scores out of 18 will count. So we'll take a look at that leaderboard, see where we're standing. And of course, we'll highlight some of the top finishers from Week 14 in that contest. So if you're hearing me right now, go secure your spot. I'm going to do that right now, so I don't forget, and just secure that entry. Come back on Sunday and set that lineup and try to win some of these great prizes, including $5,000 to the winner of the season-long leaderboard, along with some potential free RotoGrinders Premium, which we'll talk about here later on in the show. So I want to say what's up to the chat. Some of our usuals are here, the regulars in the house. Josh Duck, Don Yeezy here. So what's up, fellas? Morel Carter, nice and early here for the show, hanging out. So you guys got questions in the chat, sound off, and we'll try to get to them here as we go through these games. All right, guys, let's jump in. Chop, we'll start with your Cowboys traveling to New York to take on the Giants. Big favorites here for Dallas, sitting at minus 10.5 here in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Total at 44.5. So, Chop, we'll start with you here. Injury-wise, sounding good on Tony Pollard's potential return for the Dallas Cowboys. Receivers on the Giants, always a question mark. Kadarius Toney and John Ross, both dealing with some COVID issues. And, of course, Daniel Jones remains questionable. Doubt that we see him back in that lineup this week. So, sounds like another week of Mike Glennon. So, Chop, Cowboys looked good last week in that game against Washington. A lot of points here they're giving up on the road. So how are you feeling about that? How do we attack this Giants defense? And who is your run it back with the Giants, if anybody, here against the Cowboys?
Yeah, that's a lot of points on the road. You know, I was prepared to tell you Giants, give me the Giants, but then I saw, Mike Glennon's name up there. I forgot about him starting, so I don't know that I want to go that route. But I think ultimately there's one guy, Saquon Barkley, is your run back. I just really can't get into playing Galladay or Shepard or Ingram or any of those guys. They just don't do it for me. So Saquon's the guy. Dallas, I think there's a lot of different ways that they could, go. I think that everybody's on the table. Elliott's going to be, that's a tough one. And we could talk about that in a minute. But Elliott is I think he's on the table on FanDuel because he can really just fall into the end zone a couple of times and still do well. So he's got that going for him. But I think the passing game is definitely in play here. All of them, Lamb, Cooper, even Schultz in this matchup, and Dak. So I like that part of it. For my bet, go ahead and give me the under because I just can't lay that many points on the road. So I'll take the under here. But the question for you guy, one running back spot, I'm locked up. I'm gonna start Austin Eckler, no doubt about it. But the other one would have been a no-brainer a few weeks ago, but now I got to decide. So I'll let you guys help me out here. I got Elliott, or I can go Eli Mitchell. So I'm gonna hand it off to you guys. I'm gonna let you tell me your thoughts on it, but that's where I'm at. Give me the under on this game.
Man, that's a good debate to have. I've seen worse debates, Chop. People talking about starting Royce Freeman or Deonta Foreman. So you're in a better spot than some of those guys. But that's tough. Derek, any thoughts there? I mean, Elijah Mitchell questionable. Sounds like he's trending towards a return. We'll get to that game later in the show. But I tend to lean Mitchell if he's in there, especially if Pollard's back. They're going to split this work where Mitchell's going to get all the work there for San Francisco. So it's tough to put Zeke on the bench, no doubt, but I'm going to lean Mitchell here. Derek, thoughts on that real quick?
I don't think it's much of a debate if Mitchell is trending toward playing. I mean, Corey Clement got more carries than Zeke last week. He just looks so bad right now. I think, he's obviously dealing with some injuries and just looks run down. So I don't think I could trust Zeke right now, DFS or season long, especially if Pollard's back. I think that makes the decision even easier. I agree with Chop. I like the passing attack for Dallas. I like Dak quite a bit. Cooper, CD, I think they're both in pretty good spots. And then, as you guys mentioned, I think the best run back is going to be Saquon Barkley. He's kind of back to playing that feature back role. He's always capable of getting injured at any time, but you can't really, project that when you're playing DFS. So, yeah, I like the passing game for Dallas. I like Saquon as sort of the bring back. And then for my pick, yeah, that's a lot of points. So I'm going to take the under.
All right, 2 unders here. I'm going to go with the Giants. It is a lot of points. I know it's Mike Glennon. I just see the Giants being pesky, competitive in this game. Plus, I got to make up some ground. I was stuck on the under of the Giants. So I agree with you guys. I do think it'll be a low-scoring game, which would help my underplay. But all Dallas for me, DFS. Again, Dak with any of those receivers are viable. I like Pollard as kind of a cheaper running back play. And you're right, Saquon, probably the only guy on the Giants worth even mentioning here. And give me the Giants plus 10.5. All right, next game, Arizona and Detroit. A lot of injuries here, a lot of question marks in this game. But we'll do our best here. I'll read off some of the names. DeAndre Hopkins getting a second opinion here on his leg injury. So we'll see. He is questionable. James Conner also questionable. We saw Chase Edmonds activated last week. They didn't return him to in-game play, but he could be back in the lineup this week. Detroit side, same names, Swift, Jamal Williams, and TJ Hawkinson all remain questionable. So, Derek, we'll stay with you. Kind of tough here with all of these injury question marks, but we'll do our best here. Arizona coming off a disappointing loss at home in that big game against the Rams. Detroit went out to Denver very shorthanded, had a flu outbreak, and got crushed by the Broncos. So coming back home here, I'm going to lock in the Lions here. I do think they'll get hopefully one or two of these guys back, but we know they've been good against the spread outside of that game against Denver, which was a disaster. I'm going to go back to the well on the Lions here, even though it's a good bounce back spot for Arizona. I do like some of their options here against the Lions defense, especially whoever the running back is. But Lions for me, Derek. Your thoughts here? A bet, DFS wise, what are you doing?
Yeah, tough game. A lot of injuries to monitor. They're saying James Conner is day to day, so that doesn't sound great. Hopkins is getting a second MRI, so that doesn't sound great. And then Edmonds, we'll have to wait and see on him. So, maybe it's a Benjamin week. It'll kind of be the free square. Anytime you can get a feature back against the Lions, you take your chances, especially at that price point. Or if it's Edmonds, I don't mind going there. If it's Connor, I don't mind going there. So, they're favored by 2 touchdowns. It's a great matchup. Obviously, like Kyler Murray as well. And then depending on Hopkins, you can play Green, you can play Kirk. Rondell Moore, we're still waiting for that big game from him. Maybe it comes against this bad Lions defense. And to bring it back, Craig Reynolds and Godwin I don't really know how to pronounce his last name just yet. They basically split 50-50 the snaps last week. So I don't feel great about that. I know the matchup isn't terrible. And then trusting Jared Goff at any time is kind of scary. So, man, I don't like a lot from Detroit. I do think they'll be playing from behind a lot. Maybe we'll get some St. Brown or Josh Reynolds, Hawkinson maybe, but I don't love it. So for me, I'm just going to take Arizona. I think they're going to take out their anger on the Lions this week.
Chop, you're our resident pronunciation guy, so can we get a ruling on this fella's last name? Igwebuike, I believe.
Igwebuike. We'll go with that.
Hey, I like it. Putting that spin on it, no doubt. So, it was surprising to see Craig Reynolds. I know we got some reports earlier right before that game that he was going to be involved and actually looked pretty good. But as you mentioned, Derek, tough to trust that position. It's especially being such an underdog in this game. I know they love to throw to the running backs, but tough to like anything on the Detroit side. So Chop, try to navigate all the injuries and stuff here. Thoughts on this game, Cardinals and Lions?
The Detroit side is pretty easy for me. There's really only one guy that you can trust nowadays, and that's DeAndre Swift if he ever plays for Detroit. If he doesn't play, I can't mess with anybody. I got suckered into, the cheap Jamar Jefferson play last week, thinking he was going to eat up a bunch of carries and all that stuff, but that didn't happen. Craig Reynolds happened and bust on the scene and took a bunch from him and actually looked pretty impressive, but I don't want to trust him in this matchup. So there's really nobody on Detroit that I feel good about if DeAndre Swift's not in the lineup. For Arizona, they're going to get it done with whatever they have on the field. As long as Kyler's out there and healthy, they'll be fine. It's just a matter of who we want for DFS and who we're waiting on. And, whoever's the last man standing in the backfield, that's a good play. Whoever the wide receivers are all GPP options, and none of them are cash options. And that includes Zach Ertz at tight end. So I think they're all in play. Whoever's healthy. Detroit, I don't think anybody's – if you're playing this game, you're not stacking. And I don't think you're going with a run back. You're just going with an onslaught. Like Arizona's going to kill them if that's what you choose to do. For me personally, I'm looking at the injuries on both sides. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to take the under here in this game.
All right, Derek, did you make a pick on this one?
Yeah, give me the Cardinals.
Okay. All right, moving on. Next game, Carolina and Buffalo. Another big spread here, all triple-digit spreads. To open us up here, Buffalo 10.5-point favorites, total sitting at 44.5. Again, these lines courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook. So, Chop, we'll stay with you. Buffalo, obviously it's a bounce-back spot, disappointing loss in Tampa. They had their chances to win that game. Carolina, a disappointing loss as well at home to the Atlanta Falcons. So who bounces back here injury-wise? We'll keep an eye on Josh Allen dealing with that foot injury. DJ Moore dealing with a hamstring injury are the major injuries in this one. And obviously no Emmanuel Sanders likely this week for Buffalo. So Gabriel Davis enters the equation as a potential cheap value option at the receiver position. So Chop, big favorites here for Buffalo. Do they bounce back? Do they bounce the Patriots here and cover this big spread? Panthers, I should say, not Patriots.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Buffalo's had some tough breaks here, and that was a tough game this past week. And I'm gonna say, I hate to pile on coaches, but man, there were some decisions made there near the end of that game and in overtime where you're playing Tampa in Tampa. You just got to go for some of that stuff. You can't just settle for field goals and punt the ball on 4th and 2 when you're inside the Tampa's territory. You just got to go for it and try to grab the win. Otherwise, Brady hits guys for 60-yard touchdowns and wins the game, and you don't get another chance. So this is a good bounce back spot for Buffalo. I don't touch their backfield these days, but I think all the guys in the receiving core are in play. Dawson Knox is kind of like sneaky one of the best tight ends in the game for fantasy this year. When he's been healthy, he's been good. So they're all in play. Josh Allen, I worry about his mobility, but he'll get there with his arm if he doesn't get there with his leg. So, and the Carolina side, man, this Cam Newton is he's beyond washed. I don't even have words to describe Cam Newton right now. So he kind of brings everybody down. Now, if DJ Moore were to miss, if he were to be injured, then maybe Robbie Anderson would be in play here. But otherwise, and Chuba Hubbard, he hasn't been good since his second year in college. It's amazing. I don't know what happened to him, but he's not getting it done either. So I just don't feel good about Carolina at all. So I don't think I'm going to have very much exposure to them in DFS. I got to go ahead and take a big bounce back here from Buffalo, and I got to take Buffalo at home to cover the spread.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about Cam. He's going to get his rushing touchdown seemingly once a week, but he does look terrible. If Moore's out, that's a huge blow. You mentioned the concerns with Chubbard, that plus Amir Abdullah working into this offense in this backfield. So that being said, I do like the over in this game. We know Buffalo can go nuts. Wouldn't be surprising to see them cover that spread. I don't hate that pick at all, but I do think Carolina can do enough, be pesky enough to push this number over. Seems a little bit too low. So I agree with some of your thoughts. I love Buffalo and DFS. If Allen's right, Allen to Diggs, a double stack, include Davis or Beasley or Knox in there. I'm going to leave the backfield alone here with Buffalo, but this passing game certainly set up for success. So over for me. Derek, your thoughts here, Panthers, Buffalo.
Man, I fell for the Cam Newton trap last week, and I am not going to fall for it again. He got benched not once, but twice in that game. So I don't really know what their coaching staff is doing either. Sounds like Sam Darnold could be back, although Cam's still going to draw the start. So, I mean, he could easily get benched again in this one. You mentioned Amir Abdullah. He did about snapping Hubbard last week, so I don't want to touch that backfield, and I can't trust any of these receivers with Cam under center. Other side, so Singletary ended up playing 82% of the snaps last week. Zach Moss was a healthy scratch. I don't know if that was more, they were trailing most of that game, so maybe Singletary just got more work. But Allen's dealing with a toe injury, so maybe this is the game where Singletary does get some more work. I'm not sure we're going to need him because running back is always such a deep position. But I don't hate him as a large field tournament play. Diggs, Beasley, obviously, certainly fine as well. And I'm going to agree with Chop. Give me the Bills to cover the spread.
All right, moving on. Next game, Tennessee traveling to Pittsburgh. Titans -1.5 point favorites here. On the road, total at a low 41.5. This is one of the few games, guys. There's not any major injuries. We already know A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry on the IR. Outside of that, knock on wood, everybody's available to play here in this game. We'll see what happens. So, Derek, we'll stay with you here. Tennessee, easy win last week against your Jacksonville Jaguars. Now on the road in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needs a win. They're still very much in the mix here, but a tough spot here against the Titans team playing some good football right now.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely should be a good game. As far as Tennessee goes, they have a three-way timeshare in the backfield, so I don't want to trust that, especially on the road. Tannehill, he just hasn't had the same efficiency as he did last year, lost offensive coordinator, and obviously doesn't have, Derrick Henry to bring the safeties down in the box, and, obviously doesn't have his receivers either. So I don't really want to trust anyone here. Julio Jones is tempting because he is the wide receiver 1, but he only played on 45% of the snaps last week. So we want that number to be, up in the 60 to 70% range. So I think it's going to be hands off for me on the Titans. And then the Steelers, even though it's not a great spot, even though they don't have a high total, they do have a very concentrated offense. So I'll always have shares of Najee Harris. Deontay Johnson just gets double-digit targets every single week. Chase Claypool has that, upside that we're looking for in tournaments. So I do think you can target some Steelers, but I won't be looking at the Titans. And for my pick, I'm actually going to take the Steelers at home.
I like the Steelers here as well. This line, Titans are the better team, but Pittsburgh again back against the wall. Not a ton I like in DFS here, Chop. I agree with some of Derek's thoughts. Najee Harris, you like the volume, but do we want to go there? There's some other running backs I think are better spots. Tennessee, do we trust a guy like Deonta Foreman, who saw a lot of work? Julio Jones, like you mentioned. So just a lot of question marks in DFS, but I'm going to back the Steelers here, plus the 1.5 as well. Chop, your turn here. Titans, Steelers. What do you got?
Yeah, the Titans are just went from one of the more exciting DFS teams in football with the injuries to now just one of the worst, one of the most boring. Tannehill not getting it done. Can't find a receiver. His receivers are hurt anyway. And Julio this entire season just hasn't looked good. He just looked out of it the entire season, even when he was healthy to start. So can't trust him. And then, as much as I wanted to take Deontay in this matchup, I really did. And I just digging in. I just don't think there's the upside there for him to do it. I think in cash games, I haven't looked at the total layout of all the running backs, but cash games, maybe. I don't know. GPPs, I just don't think there's an upside there for him. He got into the end zone early last week, and I was like, oh, man, yeah, here we go. I got him at 3%. I'm going to crush. And he just didn't do anything after that. So I don't know if I trust him. But then on the other side, Pittsburgh's a two-man show. Najee or Deontay, that's what Ben does. He checks down to those two guys. So you can go that route. Freiermuth is the king of the fourth quarter touchdown in catch-up mode. So he's a pretty decent tight end. But, it's not super exciting here, as evidenced by the 41.5 total. It's pretty low. So, man, this is a tough one right here. I'm going to say Tennessee's just not good enough for me to take them on the road as favorites against Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh's good either. Give me the under in this game. I just think it's a low number, but these offenses just don't excite me at all. So I'll take the under.
Yeah, tough to trust either of these guys. We got the guys talking about Foreman in the chat, asking if he's the thing. Derek brought up the snap rate. And Pittsburgh has struggled against running backs recently, but it's really tough to trust a guy playing less than a third of the snaps. I don't think they're done with Dontrell Hilliard either. If they're playing from behind, Foreman basically has to check out of the game. There's just a lot of question marks with Foreman. And like Chop said, a lot of other running backs that we think are in better spots. So certainly wouldn't eliminate him from the player pool, but there are better options. All right, let's go to Washington. Philadelphia up next. Philadelphia up to 7-point favorites here at home. A total at 44.5. Obviously, a lot of injuries to watch in this one as well. Jalen Hurts and Sanders on the Philadelphia side, along with Terry McLaurin and Taylor Heineke on the Washington side. So, Chop, we'll stay with you. Washington been a struggle, looked bad against Dallas. Philadelphia, it sounds like Hurts should be back in that lineup. Sounds like they get Sanders back. A big game for both of these teams. Still somehow in the mix in the NFC. What do you got here? Football team and Eagles.
Yeah, the injuries are all over the place here. It's a tough one to figure out on a Wednesday afternoon. But, if Hurts is in there, he becomes one of the better cash game quarterbacks, as always, on the slate, just because of his running and what that does. And, kind of makes it to where Devontae and Dallas Goedert are just run-of-the-mill. They're okay. Like we saw what a guy, of his talent can do with a decent quarterback last game, Dallas Goedert, right? So, but we haven't seen Hurts do that for him all year long, basically. That takes the steam out of him. But people keep going back to Miles Sanders. I don't know if I'm going that route either. with maybe some of these other guys getting a little bit healthier. I don't know if I want to go that route. So it might just be Hurts. And to tell you, when I do my lineup HQ, I don't make it to where I have to pair Hurts with anybody. I'm fine with running Hurts up there all by himself, even in GPPs, because his big games come not from passing. They come from running for the 100-yard bonus and all that other stuff. So I don't think you have to pair him with anybody. Washington, right now, they're off the board for me just because I don't know what's going to happen. McLaren, that was a rough-looking head injury last week. Don't know if he's going to play. Heineke, don't know what's going on with there. Even Antonio Gibson left that game for quite a while with a leg injury, so I'm not even sure about him. They're totally, up in the air for me. So I can't recommend anybody right now until we see how the injuries shake out. And with all that being said, I'm assuming Philadelphia is going to be a little healthier this week. I'm going to take Philadelphia with the points here.
I also like the Eagles here. I just think they're the much better team. Washington on a slide. You mentioned some of the injuries. I think Philadelphia's defense is squarely in play here as well. Even if Washington is at full strength, that Philly defense been pretty solid this season. And, Gibson has had his ups and his downs, busted as chalk last week. Maybe it's a spot you can go back to him as a sneakier play, but really remains cheap across these DFS sites. So, he always stands out. And if they're without McLaurin, I could see this spread getting up to 8.5 potentially. So I'm with you, Chop. I'm going to grab this at -7. I'm back to Eagles here. Love Hurts. I agree. Don't think you need to pair him. He's pretty much it for me in this game, along with the Philadelphia defense for DFS. Derek, your thoughts? Washington, Philadelphia.
I'd love to try to make up some ground on Chop since I am trailing him in the season-long bets total, but I can't go against the Eagles here. For all the reasons you guys mentioned, Washington seems like they're struggling. They kind of lost their Super Bowl, if you will, last week. They didn't really show up until the fourth quarter, and there's just so many injuries on that side. So give me Philly. From a DFS perspective, I think Hurts makes a lot of sense. Chop mentioned the rushing upside. He offers one of the higher floors of any quarterback in the NFL. I don't think you need to pair him up with anybody, but Smith is fine. Godare, as we like to call him, he's fine as well. But like Chop mentioned, he was much better with the backup in there than he was with Hurts. So this isn't a game that I want to get too much exposure to. And man, I played Gibson last week and watching Jonathan Williams, who I didn't even know was in the league anymore, come in and score that touchdown. That was brutal. That was icing on the cake after Cam Newton got benched as well, and then the Panthers went down and scored touchdowns. So it was a brutal week for me. But from a DFS standpoint, you just got to wait and see. If McLaurin's out, they will open up some value with these receivers.
You love when those guys pop up out of nowhere. The Jonathan Williams of the world, Deonta Foreman's, this Reynolds character for Detroit. I mean, it just shows you the running back position constantly a turnstile. Guys injured, hurt, COVID now, so crazy, no doubt. So got some more people jumping in the chat. Abel talking about Houston's quarterback. We're going to talk about that god-awful game here coming up soon. Sean in the chat saying what's up. And BJ Arroyo up to 27th in the standings here in our OGs contest. So love to hear it, BJ. We'll take a look at those standings here momentarily. Guys, let's move to our next game. The Jets and the Dolphins. Miami up to -10, 42 on the total. Injuries here as well. Pretty much Miami's entire backfield right now questionable from Gaskin, Philip Lindsay, Salvin Ahmad. So it sounds like Gaskin could play, but if not, Duke Johnson, another running back that will hit off the recycle heap there, could be in play. Jets dealing with injuries as well. Elijah Moore, we know, is on IR. Corey Davis out for the year. Tevin Coleman questionable. They may get Michael Carter back in this one. So, again, a lot of moving parts here, Derek, but this is another spot. I think that the main play here, the Miami defense against Zach Wilson and company, whoever the running back may be, whether it's Duke, whether it's Dokes, I think is a viable option. And then, of course, Waddle and even Tua as maybe a value quarterback option. The Jets, really tough to trust anybody over there. So thoughts here, Derek? Miami, big favorites here at home against the Jets.
Yeah, so I'm excited to hear Chop's scouting report of Jared Dokes because I've never heard of him. So I'm hoping he knows something about him from college. But Beer, you mentioned, I mean, you play the Miami defense, you pair him up with whoever's starting at running back, and then you pretty much move on from there. I think Miami crushes in this spot. I believe they're coming off of a bye week. They've been playing really good over the last 6 or 7 weeks, and I don't trust anyone on New York's side of things. So I'll keep it short and sweet. Give me Miami to cover the spread, and then their defense is going to be one of my favorite plays of the week.
Yeah, I'm on Miami here as well. I just don't see how Zach Wilson's going to suddenly generate some offense. This Dolphins defense playing at a high level, a road game for the Jets, missing your best receivers. I mean, when your best receivers, Braxton Berrios, Chop, you're in trouble.
3 for 3, back to back 3
2 in
for
a row.
3s.
All
I
right.
mean, I've been on Miami all year long, and they've been on a nice little win streak spread wise. So I'll keep riding them. And I love taking teams coming off a bye week like this, and against the spread. But for DFS purposes, you want to know about Jared Dokes. He's about as average as you can get. So I'm not going that route. And so
there you go.
I'm not trusting him. And even Duke Johnson, we've seen, even if they said, well, Duke Johnson's going to be the running back, he's going to get the start. I mean, we saw Duke Johnson just last year start and get, with all the injuries in Houston, he had like a full backfield to himself some weeks and just didn't do anything with it. So I don't even know if I would trust anybody in this. The only thing I trust is Tua and Waddle, and that's it. And even on the other side, I don't trust any Jets because, like you said, their best player is Elijah Moore. He's not going to play. So Tua, Waddle are the only DFS relevant guys for me. But, yeah, Miami, I think, coming off the bye is the play here with the spread.
Yeah, I mean, if Carter's in, he's intriguing on DraftKings. We know Wilson's going to check down a ton. They don't have any receivers. Jamison Crowder, Berrios, Keelan Cole. I mean, this is not very inspiring at that position. So I think Carter could be a decent, cheaper running back play. But again, pretty well down the board. Some guys excited about Dokes in the chat. So Chop just rained all over that parade. Average at best. So,
well,
I mean,
Sean says Gaskin is below average and he's been startable. Yes, Gaskin's been startable. Gaskin's been the full workhorse with Jared Dokes and Duke Johnson there. That shows you how much further down the list they are than Gaskin in talent. He's supremely talented over those guys, and that should tell you something because Gaskin's not even that good. So I'd tread lightly with this backfield, man.
Right, yeah, and if it's not Gaskin, it's probably a committee. I don't see them just relying suddenly on Jared Dokes. They're going to utilize Duke. They could utilize Patrick Laird even. I mean, you could see this turn into a mess here. So I just don't see a reason why. I get it, big home favorites. The Jets, a phenomenal matchup for running backs. They've given up about 1,000 touchdowns. I certainly understand the appeal, but if it's Gaskin, okay, I feel pretty good about it, knowing he's going to get the work. If it's Dokes, I don't see him being a 20-touch guy here in this game against the Jets. So situation we'll have to keep an eye on, obviously, as we approach Sunday, but certainly some appeal there. But right now, I'd leave it alone. Just stick with that defense and bet on the Dolphins with all three of us agreeing on that. All right, next game. This one, you not have a strong stomach here, Derek. No offense here. I think you're probably on board here about the worst game we could potentially drum up here. Houston and Jacksonville. The Jags are -3.5, something I never thought I would utter here this season. Total at 39.5. Chop, you get the honors of starting off this game. And one interesting stat, it went all the way back to week 1. Trevor Lawrence was phenomenal against Houston. That opening day, it started out rough, no doubt. I remember the game, but came on, like gangbusters in the second half. Ends up throwing 3 touchdowns in that game. He's thrown 6 touchdowns the rest of the entire season. So just been a disaster here. Chop, is there anything here? I mean, no Rex Burkhead. Royce Freeman got a ton of work last week. Maybe he's in play. James Robinson is always intriguing in a good matchup here. But 2 teams that are very, very bad. Can we do anything here in DFS?
So I dug around and I unturned every stone in this game. And I mean, I'm looking at James O'Shaughnessy and the resurgence of Laquan Treadwell. I mean, I was digging in deep. And Brandon Cooks is the only guy I think you can possibly even think about playing in this game. These other guys are terrible. James Robinson not getting the work that you want out of a running back. Trevor Lawrence not getting the ball to the wide receivers or tight ends. Davis Mills, the only real target he's got there is, you know what? If we get injuries at the tight end position, Brevin Jordan is okay. He's cheap enough to where maybe you get lucky and he gets another touchdown for you because he's been grabbing a couple of touchdowns here and there. So maybe that. But Brandon Cooks is the only one for me in this entire game. This game is atrocious, man. And I'll tell you, I'm going to take the points here. I'm going to take Houston on the road, and mainly because they still feel at least like they got some fight in them. They keep fighting every week, even though they're bad. Jacksonville, I think, has given up on their head coach and given up on this whole situation this year. So maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm misreading it, and that's always when you kind of get bit by a team like Jacksonville, comes up and plays well, but I don't see it. I'm going Houston here.
Urban has been even a more of a disaster than we thought it was going to be. I mean,
does he want to be? He's so badly wants to be fired. It's just it's incredible, man.
I mean, sitting at that press conference, they're literally peppering him with questions, and he's just sitting there and barely even responding, making any movements. Just like he is done. Even the handshake after the game was like, yeah, whatever. Like, Derek, what in the hell is going on down there? I mean, it's tough I didn't think it could get any worse as a Jacksonville fan, but you're our boots on the ground. This is your team. Like, what? How is this guy? He's got to be done, right? There's no way they bring him back as the coach.
Yeah, he's got to be done. And for me, I mean, ignorance is bliss. I see a new Urban Meyer, headline pop up on my Twitter timeline every couple of days, and I just can't click into them anymore. It's just getting so bad. But I'm going to take the Jags in this spot. I don't think I've bet on them all year. I just think, look, they don't want the number one pick again. I don't think. Then, we got Trevor Lawrence question marks already. So I think they're going to take care of business. I know them covering, let alone a 3.5 point spread. That sounds crazy, but I think they're going to get the job done at home against Houston. DFS wise, you guys pretty much mentioned it. I mean, you can't really run on the Jags, so I don't want to play the Houston backfield. So maybe you play Davis Mills and Brandon Cooks for the Jags. Yeah, if Carlos Hyde's out, I think James Robinson's at least a little bit interesting. But for the most part, I think you can avoid this game.
Yeah, for sure. So I can't believe you're back. You know that I've been a staunch supporter of your Jaguars this year. It's cost me quite a few dollars here. So
the spread feels so off that I just got to roll with it.
I'm going to leave this spread alone because it does feel weird. I'm going to go on this total. And these are two very bad teams and two very bad all defenses, offenses. With this low total, I'm going to go over. I think they can do enough against bad defenses to score 20 points each. So probably going to blow up in my face. But I'm going to go over on the slow number here. What a disaster this game is. So, all right, let's get out of this. So we spent way too much time in that game, but wanted to highlight some top finishers in our FanDuel OGs contest. Again, if you want to get involved with this, hopefully you've been playing and charging up that leaderboard. Everything you need at FanDuel.com/OG can enter, can secure entry early and come back and fill it in. Can also take a look at the season-long leaderboard. Let's get into some of the best finishers from last week. We'll start fifth place. Adam R72, 162.72 last week. Wrote Josh Allen, big game against Tampa Bay in that comeback effort. Had Leonard Fournette as a run back option. The Kansas City defense was huge, 24 fantasy points, and a big day from Javonte Williams. So congrats to him. Third place, Bald Doug win. Bald Doug win. Well done. Harkins back to Doug Baldwin. Fourth place here, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara pairing here in that one. So a little bit different of a lineup here. A big game from George Kittle. And once again, the Kansas City defense survived. Just 3 points from Emmanuel Sanders. Third place, C. Morello, 248, 164.72. Again, we see Josh Allen, Cole Beasley, Javonte Williams, and Alvin Kamara in this lineup. Kansas City defense, once again, also had Dawson Knox. So a nice three-man stack there without Stephon Diggs. Second place, Circle and Steve, 170.62. Josh Allen, again, the highlight of this lineup. Had Tyler Lockett, big game at 2.4% ownership. Kansas City defense, again, 0 from Terry McLaurin. So still survived. One hell of a lineup. You get anything from McLaurin, it's an even bigger day. So tough blow there, but still a nice second place finish. And our winner, In week 14, ALS Refugees 174.34. No Josh Allen here. We got Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle highlighting this lineup. Rashad Penny, 26 fantasy points at less than 2% ownership in this one. Alvin Kamara here as well. Jamar Chase with 2 touchdowns. A great lineup by ALS Refugees, who is rocking the RotoGrinders badge. We know what that means, boys. ALS Refugees going to win themselves a year of RotoGrinders combo premium. So congratulations. If you want a chance at that, very simple. Rock that RotoGrinders logo. You win the weekly contest. You are going to win a year of RotoGrinders combo premium absolutely free. So congrats again to ALS Refugees. Chop, season-long leaderboard. I see you perusing up and down. Give us some of the highlights here. What are we looking at?
Well, Notorious up in the top 50 there. He jumped up in the top 50. He leapfrogged Urinal Cakes. Urinal Cakes going down
fast.
Going down the drain here, man, so to speak. No pun intended there, Urinal. But, yeah, it's rough. Dean's still lurking in the top 100. So, I don't know, man. We got some interesting things going on. But up top, the same characters that been there the last couple weeks are there. So, still got a long way to go, though. We'll see how it plays out. I feel good. I think I cracked top 100 last week for the first time, 91st place. So this is the beginning of the run here, man.
There you go. Better late than never, right? So yours truly forgot to put an entry in one of them busy Sundays, and at 101 you say, "Oh shit, forgot to put a lineup in." So I didn't want Derek to be the only one that forgot. So I wanted to throw a 0 up there as well. But that's the beauty of this contest. Your top 10 scores will count here in this one. So everyone that's still in the mix, 4794, continues to be the clubhouse leader for that season-long prize. Again, $5,000 if you're able to stave everybody else off in that one. So excited to see this one coming to its conclusion. Sad to see the season ending. Only 4 weeks left, but still a lot of time for anyone to catch up on that leaderboard. Let's take a look at our picks as well. Pretty solid across the board last week. Chop, you had 6 correct. I also had 6. Noto wins the week with 7, so did gain 1 spot here on Chop. So we are sitting at Chop at 85 correct. Noto 3 back now at 82, and I am sitting at 76, 9 back of Chop. So still a tight race, mostly between you two. I just need some kind of miracle week to happen to get back in the mix here. But let's get back to the games here. 4 games on the afternoon docket. We'll start with Atlanta and San Francisco. Niners minus 946 on the total. Elijah Mitchell, we talked about him earlier. Chop season-long debates. Really the only injury we're really monitoring here. Sounds like he's trending towards a return. So Derek, open us up here. Niners, big favorites. George Kittle's put some big games on the board. Deebo Samuel been massive. Elijah Mitchell's had some great games. Atlanta, outside of Cordero Patterson, really tough to trust anybody on that side right now.
Yeah, pretty simple for me. I mean, Niners, big favorites at home. They have one of the better, offensive lines when it comes to run blocking. And then, Atlanta, one of the worst defensive lines when it comes to run stopping. I think they're 29th in DVOA against the run. And Mitchell, the last 3 games he's played, 27, 27, and 22 carries. So he's getting a lot of work as long as he's healthy. I like him quite a bit. If he's out, I don't mind going back to Jeff Wilson. I know he's let us down 2 times in a row when he's kind of been the chalk cheap running back. But it's a great spot. They're at home. Debo is going to steal some carries for sure. But, yeah, I think it's interesting for sure. Whoever starts, I think you can pair him up with the defense. And then Kittle's just he's been on a tear, so you can play him as well. I just worried the San Fran's going to get out to such a big lead they won't need to throw the ball as much as they have the last few weeks. And for the Falcons, look, they're trying to force feed Patterson the ball, but he's played less than 50% of the snaps in 3 straight games. That's just not really what I want from a running back, especially as a big underdog on the road. So I can't trust him. Definitely don't trust Ryan in this passing attack right now. So I have more interest in the Niners defense than I do in anyone from the Falcons. And it feels like I'm taking all the home favorites, but I'm going to take another one here. Give me San Fran.
I'm going to go the other side of this one. I'm going to take Atlanta here. I know they've been bad. They're still very much in the mix for an NFC playoff spot, and surprisingly been very good on the road this season. 5 of their wins have come away from the Dome there. So they've been pesky. They've hung in games. It's always ugly, but I think they do it here again. And as good as San Francisco's been playing, I like Atlanta. That being said, DFS-wise, I'm with you, Derek. It's all San Francisco for me. Kittle's been a monster. If it's Mitchell, I like him. I'm with you on Jeff Wilson. I'm willing to go back to that well, and I can't hate on Debo or Ayuk either here. But I'm going to go Atlanta plus the 9. Chop, settle the tie here or hit the total. Falcons, 49ers.
Well, this game leads me to I got 3 big questions in my season long this team, and this is one of them. It's going to be, do I go Kyle Pitts or do I go Pat Freiermuth? So I got to figure that one out. But for as far as the DFS, Atlanta is terrible. I don't want them. I'll pass, hardcore pass. And Frisco, boy, George Kittle's been a GPP winner for 2 weeks in a row. He's good. I worry about game script, but you never know. And we'll see what happens in the backfield. Whoever, if Mitchell's healthy, get Mitchell in there. If he's not, then yeah, I'm go back to the Jeff Wilson train. But and Debo's always, you just never know when Debo can be a game changer and win GPP. So I'm on the Frisco guys. Don't know exactly who just yet, but because of all that, I'm on Frisco with the spread here. And I'm worried about Kyle Pitts, man. I've been starting him all year, and he's been putting up. I think he's had one good week all year long, so I'm really worried about him.
Derek, you wanna help him out there? Freiermuth or Kyle Pitts in the season-long league?
Yeah, that's tough. I guess I would go Pitts. I think you get a little bit more upside there. Should be trailing at least.
Oh man, that one is tough, Chop. Titans been very good against tight ends, and both of these teams are top 4 against tight ends this season. So I am going to go with Pitts as well, but it's very close. I can certainly see the debate there. So I'll go Pitts. Let's move on. Next game, Cincinnati and the Denver Broncos. Broncos minus 2.5, 44 on the total here in this one. Denver coming off an easy win against the Detroit Lions. Cincinnati, tough loss at home to San Francisco. So, Derek, let's stay with you here on this one. It's an interesting game. Cincinnati starting to slide a little bit. Both these teams still very much alive in the playoff race here. Not a ton of injuries in this game either. So, Melvin Gordon, the only name questionable right now out of the big names here. So, thoughts here, Bengals, Broncos.
Not a game that I want to have a ton of exposure to. Denver is one of those places that's a tough place to play. We typically get low totals, and that's the case again this week. With Melvin Gordon coming back, he played 50% of the snaps last week. Javonte played 49%. So anyone that thought, he was going to, take over as the feature back, that was kind of put to rest last week. So if Gordon's active, I don't really want to trust the backfield. If he's out, you could definitely play Javonte Williams. He's looked great all season, especially the last 2 weeks. I don't think I'll be targeting the passing game too much. Cincinnati, the low total just scares me off. I know Mixon pretty much in every down back at this point. I know Chase has some upside, Higgins and all that, but I just don't have a ton of interest on the road in Denver. For my pick, give me the under.
All right, I'm going to go Denver in this one. I agree. DFS-wise, this one pretty much a stay away. I don't mind the Mixon bounce back here, but he didn't look healthy last week, so still dealing with some lingering issues. A tough place to play, like you mentioned, those Denver receivers. Tough to trust any of them when they're all healthy. I don't mind Chase, but he's expensive in this spot. So all in all, likely mostly a cross-off game for me here, Chop. Any more optimism on this one, any plays that we're not seeing here, and your thoughts on the betting market here, Cincinnati and Denver?
Not feeling great about the DFS here. So I think Javonte is still going to be on my radar, and I think the Cincinnati guys, the big ones, are still going to be on my. Burrow, Mixon, Chase, and Higgins. I'm not scratching those guys off. It's not a great matchup, but you never know when you get a good receiver, and you got a couple of them here with the Bengals. You never know. I'm on Ross St. Brown. Did a pretty good number on the Denver secondary last week. It's not the normal. They're usually pretty good, but you can't guard everybody, so you just never know. So they stay on my radar, but not great for DFS. But for the betting market, I feel like Denver probably overachieve a little bit, and Cincinnati is the better team, and they got more to lose in this game. And I think Cincinnati is going to find a way to come out of here with a win. So give me Cincinnati.
All right, all over the board on that one. Let's move on. Next game, Seattle and the Rams. LA -4.5 here, 45.5 on the total. LA coming off a big win on the road in Arizona. Looked great in that game. Obviously, the main guy was Cooper Kupp once again. As far as COVID goes, we got Odell Beckham, Darrell Henderson. We're waiting on those guys to see if they're able to give it a go here. Seattle. Look at Rashad Penny. Quite the story last week. Looks like he will be the feature back here moving forward. 5,400 here on DraftKings this week. Pretty cheap on FanDuel as well. Chop, this line has come down. It opened up about Rams -7. Must be getting some action here on Seattle. That or COVID concerns driving this thing down to 4.5. So thoughts on that? Thoughts on this game? A big one here once again this week for the Rams.
Yeah, it's I don't think we know what's going to happen with the COVID here. I mean, we like all of a sudden late last week it was Higbee and Ramsey getting scratched. I don't think we know their status, but now we do know that Odell's got scratched, and yeah, it's tough, man. I don't know what to make of some of that stuff, but as far as DFS, okay, so when you guys start to analyze it, here's my biggest decision of the week. It's quarterback heavy scoring here. You need to nail your quarterback position in my league. You got to nail it. You got to nail it. And my biggest decision by far this year in the first round of the playoffs, Stafford in this matchup or Justin Herbert against KC on Thursday Night Football. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, man. So that's the one I'm dealing with. But as far as this game itself, I do like whatever the Rams guys that are left standing after this COVID thing. Those are the guys I'd be taking. I don't mind any of them. They'll just fill in and they'll still roll here. And in Seattle, I think, you could be looking at one of those wide receivers having a good game. Lockett or Metcalf, wouldn't play them both, but I'd play one of them. And Penny had a great game. I had a lot of Penny last week, and I just did not get rewarded because of some other things that happened. So I don't know if I trust him to do that again, especially if we're going to get some other guys back in his lineup. So that might have been the 1 week you could get away with it, but I'm not so much on him this week. But as far as my betting pick here, I know the spread's falling. That's usually a bad sign, but I got to take the Rams here.
This one's tough. I mean, I agree with your thoughts on Penny. I'll start with that. I think everybody's kind of hip to him now. I think he was somewhat sneaky last week, as we saw in the ownership department. It had a great matchup with Houston. I know this is the way you can beat the Rams is on the ground, but I don't know that I'm ready to go there. As far as your quarterback debate, and we'll toss it to Derek here as well, I'm going to say Herbert. I just think he gives you more upside. I know it's Thursday. Those games can be ugly, but you have a high total there. A Kansas City team that gives up a ton of fantasy points and rushing production to quarterbacks. I mean, they're bottom 5 in rushing yards allowed there as well. So just think he gives you more upside with his legs in a potential shootout where this one, two teams that, could struggle to score, lower total. Stafford was great last week, but I lean Herbert. So Derek, thoughts on that debate for Chop? The Rashad Penny question. Obviously, we're tiptoeing around COVID here as well, and a betting pick here. I'm gonna go under on this game. I just don't have a strong lean on either of these teams. I lean the Rams, but give me the under here. Derek, your thoughts here?
All right, Chop. For you, I was just checking the weather in KC. So Thursday night looks like it's going to be 45-ish degrees, little wind. So I definitely think Herbert's going to be just fine. That game's in Kansas City, right?
It's a great question. Let me look.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll look right now.
Okay. Well, either way, if it's in, it's in
it's in LA.
It's in LA, even better. So yeah, I like Herbert of those two. But for this game, and Sean in the chat breaking some news. Nuke out for the rest of the regular season. That's
just seeing that. Yep,
wow.
Came across my RotoGrinders app, giving me the notifications here as well. So, yeah, expected to miss the rest of the regular season. They're hopeful to get him back at some point, according to Adam Schefter. So, That's big. That is
Brutal.
big indeed. So hopefully season long, that's a big blow. DFS, we can adjust and find some other options. Obviously, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, even Rondale Moore becomes that much more important. But season long, that's a big blow, even with some of the injuries he's been dealing with. Certainly a big loss there for the Cardinals.
And yeah, back to this one. I'll have interest in whoever starts at running back for the Rams. If Henderson's out again, I mean, Sony Michel, he's looked great this year. So I don't mind going to there. They're giving him a lot of work in the red zone too, which I like. And then Cooper Kupp's viable each and every week. But if Odell's out for sure, Kupp's even in a better spot and pretty much a guarantee for 10-plus targets. So I like that quite a bit. I don't think I'll pair him up with Stafford. I'll probably just have, some running back shares, some Kupp shares. And for Seattle, I'm going to be off a penny. You guys mentioned it. He's probably going to be a little bit more popular this week. And I still think, Travis Homer is going to be their pass catching back. So I'll take a chance with a fade of penny and give me some DK Metcalf. Look, I know he's been terrible for pretty much 6 or 7 weeks now, but he's left a couple of big plays out there. Everyone's kind of playing Lockett at the moment. Everyone's going to be scared off by Jalen Ramsey, who might end up covering Lockett. We don't really know. He's been playing more slot coverage this year than he has in the past. So give me some Metcalf. I think we can get him at sub 5% ownership in this one.
All right, our last game before we get there, Sean giving us some props in the chat. Breaking news and giving us some DAP as well. First time he's able to hang out live here with the OG. So welcome, Sean. Appreciate the kind words there as we give you our initial thoughts here, even through this crazy week of potential COVID. Let's wrap things up. Green Bay and Baltimore. This is another one. Quarterbacks are the story here, Derek. Injuries on both sides. Aaron Rodgers did not do his toe any favors. Made that injury worse. Sounds like he's going to try to play through it. Lamar Jackson, no practice today for Baltimore. So we have Green Bay sitting at 4.5-point favorites, 43.5 on the total. Let's finish this up there. Kind of tough not knowing the status of these quarterbacks, but your thoughts here, Green Bay and Baltimore.
Yeah, it's really tough. I think from a DFS standpoint, there's nothing we can do really. If Lamar's active, I do think you can play him at very low ownership, most likely. And then if he's limited at all, maybe he, leans on his arm a little bit more. Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews are interesting. And then the Packers side, yeah, I kind of expect Rodgers to play. You can always play Adams. And for the time being, it's just hard to trust Jones and Dillon in a full slate. Something like Showdown, I think you can play both of them. But for the full slate, it's kind of hard to trust them with the running back position being so deep. And for my pick, I will take – oh, man, this is a tough one because I want to take the over if Lamar's active. I'll take the over, and I don't think I gave you a pick on the last one, so give me the Rams in the last game too.
All right, Rams there. Over here, I'm also on the over. Chop, do you trust Huntley if he is the guy this week? Are you willing to go there at a value price point? If Lamar's a go, do we want to go there? So talk those quarterbacks and finish this up here, Ravens and Packers.
If Lamar were healthy, I don't think I would have Lamar Jackson in my lineups this week. So I'm not going to have Tyler Huntley either, I don't believe. If he's healthy, I don't trust him. I think you could take a shot on Marquise Brown because it looked, against Chicago, maybe Green Bay was a little bit susceptible to the big play, and maybe he can hit you one right there and pay off in one play. Mark Andrews, not terrible. He's been, coming on lately, so that's fine, but not a big fan of the quarterback position here for Baltimore. Either way, no matter who it is. So I think Green Bay is in the good spot here. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is going to dice up this team through the air, and so he's shown a lot more willingness to hit Lazard or Valdez-Scantling or his tight ends. He's shown willingness to spread it around and not just pepper Devontae Adams 1,000 times a game, and that's good. So I like all these guys. Mix and match them however you want, but I think if they get it done via the passing in this game, I think they roll Baltimore here. So give me Green Bay on the road, even as big favorites.
All right, Green Bay minus 4.5. So that leaves 2 picks on the OG's parlay card for this week. We got Philadelphia -7 and Miami minus the 10. So a little 2-teamer there for you here this week in week 15. So Remember, FanDuel.com/OG. If you want to join us in this tournament, I promise you, I'll be in there. You have the three of us in there, a lot of other RotoGrinders personalities. 4 weeks left to win this season-long payout. And if you're rocking the RG badge, you win this week. That's all you do. Take down this week. You're going to win yourself a free year of RotoGrinders premium combo, all the sports, over $1,000 in added benefits each and every week on top of the weekly prizes, on top of the season-long payouts. I mean, why not play in this contest and let your friends know as well. Make sure you're checking out all the other offerings over at FanDuel. We appreciate them for sponsoring the show. Guys, final thoughts here. Again, tough week to navigate. We got through it. A lot's probably going to change, so make sure you're staying plugged in to RotoGrinders and our alerts as we get closer to Saturday and Sunday. Chop, let's go to you. Final thoughts here for week 15.
Yeah, you got to stay tuned into the news and, all the way up until those inactives come out. So it'll be interesting, but I'm looking forward to it. Get some Thursday football and then some Saturday football, then some Sunday football. And so it's going to be fun. And boy, we just missed it this week. We just missed our hour cutoff, man.
Yep.
We talked just a little bit too much season long this week.
Too many questions here, Chop, but we're here to help you out. So hopefully we got some clarity for that season-long league and in those playoffs. Derek, final thoughts, week 15. What do we got?
Just wanted to say thanks to all our listeners. Number one, for listening to the show each week. But number two, a lot of you guys gave me some good tips for my elf on the shelf problems. I got a bunch of different creative ways to move him around the house and have him get into some trouble. So the little man is been much happier this week with the elf. So thank you guys.
Are you more excited for Christmas to be here or to not have to do the elf anymore? That was always a debate in my house. You just start running out of ideas with that thing.
It's not that I don't like doing it. I just forget. And then I feel bad when I like bring him home and I'm like, oh crap, I got to distract him and move the elf real quick so that he doesn't see he's in the same spot every day. So yeah, it's fun. I definitely don't want it to be over yet, but I do appreciate all the ideas.
Yeah, we got some great listeners out there. So I agree. Thank you so much to everybody for the feedback, for hanging out here in the chat, talking football with you guys. Always a highlight each and every week. Loving getting this initial look at the slate. So we'll talk more Christmas next week. We'll be closing in on Christmas. So it'll be our Christmas spectacular for week 16. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you head over and enter this FanDuel contest. And good luck to everybody in your contests and your bets this week. For Notorious, for Head Chopper, I am Beer. We are the DFS OGs. Thank you so much for listening. Good luck this week once again. We'll catch you next week.